Singapore is celebrating the Lunar New Year. And while we have been enjoying the festivities, we've also had to deal with something less enjoyable.
I'm talking about surcharges. We've gotten so used to paying an additional fee for goods and services in the weeks leading up to the Lunar New Year. But have you ever stopped to think whether these surcharges are reasonable?
So 2 months ago, I asked you for your views.
The extra fees you have to pay just because it's Chinese New Year. So the haircut, the car grooming, cleaning services, everything's just a little bit more expensive. Have you had any experiences with that? And maybe you've got a story you can share with us. If so, drop me a note right here.
We received more than 400 responses. Almost a quarter of you say you've been seeing surcharges starting as early as 2 months before the Lunar New Year, while 57% of you say you see it starting a month before. And an overwhelming majority, 77% of you, feel that a Chinese New Year or CNY surcharge is not fair.
So in this episode, I want to find out why there are these surcharges to begin with, and why do they have to start so early? Hi, are you Tim?
Yep.
Can I get a haircut?
Sure. Have a seat.
All right. Also, I noticed you have a $10 surcharge for Chinese New Year, which kicks in January 10th, which is today actually. Why start so early?
So if you're familiar with Chinese New Year custom, you should be getting everything new for the new year, right? And new clothes, new everything, and new hair is also one of the cultural practices that most of us celebrating Chinese New Year would do. So we are starting the surcharge early to better manage the customer flow and the increased customer crowd that will be coming in.
Okay.
We are expecting at least 25% more people during this period. I will need to moderate my demands accordingly so as to better accommodate my customers' requests. Because some of them can only make it over in the evenings, so that means everyone's fighting for the same slots. And I'm the only one cutting it. So with this surcharge, it's evenly spread out, and everyone gets a fair chance and their preferred timing of choice.
The idea of a surcharge is to deter customers who don't need a haircut that urgently from coming during this peak period.
So, when it comes to this CNY surcharge, where is the money actually going?
The money from the surcharge actually goes to defraying the increased operating costs during this period. I have to pay extra electricity for the extra hours, and I have to pay for the extra water, and I also have to maintain the extra hours. So that's where it goes. And also the products, the import from overseas, that also costs a little bit more now. And also, if you notice, the pattern is after Chinese New Year, people do not cut their hair for that extended period. So that's where our business will suffer. There will be stagnation. So the surcharge also helps us to bridge during that period as well.
Are you afraid that you may actually lose some of your customers because you start so early?
People have been very understanding. I think what would be wrong is to levy a surcharge and then you don't explain to them where it's going or how it's being spent. Then customers will be like, oh, you're just taking the opportunity to leech more money off me. But that's not true.
Is it common for businesses to start so early, like a month before CNY?
From my past experience and from what I've seen, some have gone a little bit earlier, if not 1.5 as well. So there's no real standard to say like, it must be 1 month, it must be 2 weeks, it must be 3 weeks. It's what you're most comfortable with and what fits for your operations. Done. There you go.
Great. Thank you very much.
Tim imposes a 10 Singapore dollar surcharge on top of haircut services, which range from $15 to $30. That's an added cost of between 30 and 60%. 30% or more is what 1/3 of you say you have paid in previous years. But it's not just hair salons that are charging extra before the Lunar New Year. Our viewers also mentioned surcharges for everything from car servicing to nanny confinement, bakwa, that salty sweet dried pork jerky, and even pet grooming services. I'm here at Portraits. The company has been in the dog grooming business for 6 years, but only started imposing a Chinese New Year or CNY surcharge 2 years ago.
What made you decide to do that?
Because some people would like to rush a few days before Chinese New Year. When we first started, the volume is not as high.
How many more customers do you now get just before Chinese New Year?
On average day, I'll take, say, about 9 to 10.
Okay.
So it will actually increase to 13, 14 for the Chinese New Year period. I have to think about the groomers' hard work. So they are actually compensated in terms of lesser time of sleep, lesser time of meal, that kind of things. They are really very tired. So imagine one dog, it takes about 2 hours. It's really not easy for them with the hands standing whole day. It's really to compensate them.
So when you say compensation, does that mean that everything, all the surcharges go directly to the staff?
Yes, I'll divide and then everything to them.
But you're getting extra customers, you're making more money, so why not just use that and give the ang pao?
The extra customers, the amount is not enough to cover compared to the surcharges. The surcharges is actually on top of what I'm collecting.
So if you have more customers, you're saying then you have to deduct, I guess, your operating costs, things like that.
Correct.
And what's left, it's much less than this CNY surcharge.
Correct.
But if customers are paying more, do they also expect better service? Does it mean this guy will get extra grooming, extra conditioner, longer massage? No.
I won't say better service, they will do it a bit faster, but standards are still there.
But then on the flip side, should I be concerned that because you have more customers, these guys are working harder, that in fact is even worse than normal, the service?
That is why sometimes I have to use the Chinese New Year surcharge to encourage them to boost the morale.
Oh.
The pet dog population grew by 3% over the last 4 years in Singapore, which probably explains why Clarice is seeing more demand for pet grooming services just before the new year. Portraits has a 2-week surcharge, which starts at $5 but gradually increases closer to the start of the Lunar New Year. This surcharge goes up to $25 on New Year's Eve.
So with such a high surcharge, are you still seeing a lot of customers coming in?
Yes, I did still see customers coming in on the last day. Reason for such a high surcharge is because I want to actually deter them from coming in on the last day so that they can actually come on another day where, it's not so crowded.
Some people may feel that you're just taking advantage of the situation and trying to profit from it.
I myself clearly know that the groomers are doing a lot of hard work and they really deserve this small amount of extra monies for the Chinese New Year.
It's great to hear that Clarice is using her surcharge as an extra tip for her groomers. But as I'm about to find out, that may not be the case for all businesses.
I think you're just profiteering.
I've been told that CNY surcharges are implemented to cover extended working hours, higher operational costs due to a surge in demand, and in some cases, it's to compensate staff for the increased workload and pulling in longer hours. But if that's the case, how is it some businesses are able to avoid the surcharge? Fei Teo started her hair salon business a couple of years ago, and she has never imposed a surcharge on her customers during any festive period.
Hello!
Hi Steve, just take a seat.
Okay.
Mervyn will give you one of his famous massages.
Sure. So Faye, let me ask you, because I understand that you don't charge a CNY surcharge,
Yes.
right? Why is that?
I just think that they're trying to make a profit. Like, as simple as that. I just don't think it's right. It's quite unfair to your clients. It doesn't make sense. Like, public holidays, you don't charge more also. What? Why is it that it's only during holidays like Chinese New Year, Hari Raya, Deepavali, but other than that, like, there's no other surcharge. So obviously, like, you're just trying to capitalize on it.
Okay, so you feel that they're really just trying to take advantage of the situation.
I would say so.
If you don't have surcharges, then do you earn less during the CNY period?
No, because some people, like during Chinese New Year, right, we actually have like other services. Like we do like scalp treatments, like hair treatments, like this kind of thing. So before Chinese New Year, people pretty much want to look good, right? So it all adds into like whatever we earn. It's not something that we get more on a regular basis.
How come got Chinese New Year surcharge? Is it a thing for all the salons and barber shops?
This was a TikTok video posted by Mervyn Hai, a freelance barber working at Faye's shop. While Faye wasn't imposing a surcharge, he thinks there should be one. So he wanted to clear the air.
Usually it's only Chinese New Year then got surcharge, right? Like you don't see a Christmas Eve surcharge, ma. Okay, then Faye, why you never charge surcharge? I thought surcharge is a sure charge.
So how do you feel when you hear that, people like Faye are not charging a CNY surcharge during the peak period? Because some businesses say they're giving that extra money to their staff as like bonuses, ang paos.
I feel if they are gonna do that, I think that's a good thing. We want to cater to our group of regulars that's always been supporting us. So they usually are also the ones that are willing and they understand why it costs a little bit more to lock in a spot for them.
And your regulars are okay with this?
Yeah, they are. They understand like skills need good compensation also.
Faye, what do you think is an unreasonable surcharge? Like how much do you think is too much?
If you're charging like more than half of the usual price, that is like too much. I've seen cases of people incurring like $20 charges on a $30 haircut or like a $40 haircut.
Wow.
That just doesn't make sense to me. That's almost a whole other haircut.
Faye thinks 10% is a reasonable surcharge. But what do consumers think? I'm going to ask them to vote for what they think is a fair surcharge, using chocolate gold coins.
Hi sir, what do you think is a fair surcharge to pay during Chinese New Year? How many percent?
This one,
10%. Is it fair? You pay extra 10%. It's okay.
festival time is common practice. Once a year is okay lah. It is something like a tradition all the way past now.
Oh, 50%.
Presuming if it's $100 haircut, I think a $20 ang pao is fair. So probably 20%.
20%? Wow, okay. Okay.
Fair in the sense that because they're working doubly hard, so many people going for the haircut all at one time.
Okay.
Yeah, so they may have to work overtime.
Do you feel that you're getting a better haircut, better treatment because you're paying more, right?
No, honestly, no, I don't think so. It's just a reward, for a yearly affair.
20%.
You feel very strongly that it's 20%?
Wow.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
In between 10 to 20% is acceptable.
Okay.
现在做头发都已经很贵了。
Well, I think 10% is a bit low, at least once a year, so 20% I think is a fair deal.
And do you feel the companies are very transparent in the pricing? They don't try and hide it?
They probably kind of expect it to happen, so there's no surprise in the surcharge.
Honestly, I don't feel the transparency.
To me, every year is the same. Even Malay New Year, Chinese or Indian.
Hari Raya also have?
Yes. And nowadays, $10 cutting. Come to already before 1 month. Earlier days it increased $2. 10% okay.
10% is okay?
Yeah, no problem at all.
20 lah, let them have a chance. I mean, when we earn, we let somebody earn. You happy, we happy.
20%. A lot of people they spend their money on Chinese New Year just to look nice and change themselves. So I think it's fair.
Here don't have 5%.
Yeah.
10% is the cheapest.
You don't mind paying more?
Once a year only.
Okay.
Every year one time only.
10%.
What about you? What do you think?
20 ah.
20 ah? Wow, he's more generous ah.
Chinese New Year ma.
Why don't you mind paying more?
I think we just accept it when people charge extra for Chinese New Year because we need the service and there might be more customers at that point of time. So if we want the service, then we want them to attend to us, then we have to pay more.
So overall, do you think having a CNY surcharge is fair?
I think in the beauty line is fair because everybody wants to look nice for the holiday season.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you want the slot, then you have to pay a bit more.
What about other areas like food, transport, cleaning?
Food, I don't agree. Cleaning also, no.
Most people I met picked 10% as an acceptable surcharge. But if you recall, our Talking Point poll showed that in reality, most of us are paying between 20 and 30% or more in CNY surcharges. So how do we decide what is acceptable?
I mean, honestly, none of this is
None?
the right surcharge.
Okay.
I'm on a mission to find out what exactly is a reasonable surcharge for the Lunar New Year. So I'm asking economist Sumit Agarwal to weigh in.
I was out on the street asking people, many of them saying, 10, 20%, they didn't mind parting with that much. But what do you think?
To me, the right surcharge should be anywhere from 5 to 8%. Why do I say that?
Yeah.
Because if people who have done research on this, looking at events like New Year's or Christmas or other such events, they have found that the reasonable amount that you should surcharge should be around 5%. And that range comes because of the supply restrictions that happens. Labor is less available, physical supplies are less available, and so you want to mark up to account for that. But what is happening is there is this feel-good factor among the consumer. They're feeling, it's a one-off thing. I might as well kind of pay higher money. So merchants understand the psychology. So they say, might as well mark up because they're not even going to look at the bill anymore.
Oh.
They're just going to pay whatever I charge them.
Yeah. Because some of them said, in fact, they were paying up to 30, 40% more during the Chinese New Year season.
I know. I mean, I've been to get a haircut in Singapore, and the price is double or 3 times. And that's when you realize, how can that be?
Okay.
I mean, they can give you an argument that, look, the haircutter who's from Malaysia is not available anymore, but you can't justify 300% increase in prices.
300%?
Yes.
Wow.
Essentially, an $8 haircut is now costing you $25. You realize something is wrong with the market.
Right, so you're saying this becomes profiteering?
Yes, yes. There is an increase in cost to the merchant. There is an increase in cost because of labor shortage as well. But it doesn't justify the increase in price by 20, 30, 40%, or in some circumstances, 200%.
Okay, so how do we know as a customer what is okay and acceptable?
Oh, it's very hard to know
Yeah.
because there is no standardization
Yeah.
of what the right surcharge should be by industry, by sector.
So would you say then that the only fair way is actually to regulate when and I guess how much of a surcharge?
You should self-regulate.
And what would self-regulation look like?
That should depend industry to industry. For instance, if you're running a coffee shop, you will know how much constraint you will have in terms of labor, how much constraint you will have in terms of material. If you are a haircut place, you will know within that industry how much constraints we feel. And then they should come up internally that, look, we are all hairdressers. We know what's a constraint, and we should have a markup of 30%. In a coffee shop, maybe the markup should be 4% or 6%.
Right.
So there is no standardization across all companies, but within sectors, they can come up with these estimates.
These days, surcharges seem to be kicking in earlier. And there also doesn't seem to be any kind of industry-wide guideline as to how much of a surcharge is reasonable. I wonder if there should be one.
I reached out to several business associations and quickly realized that none felt they were the right organization to address the surcharges. Not the Singapore International Chamber of Commerce, or the Federations of Merchants Association, neither the Singapore Business Federation or the Singapore Retailers Association. But I finally found 2 people who could help answer my questions. They both represent different sectors of the service industry: hair and grooming services, and the small and medium-sized businesses.
So when did these surcharges come around? What's the background to it?
Well, I think it can come around as early as 1960s. There's a surge in demand.
If you look at the older days, right, when businesses are closer and people know each other well, during CNY, their customers may tip the hairdresser some money because it's Chinese New Year.
Yeah. Right.
And then some businesses then, over a period of time, incorporated that into as part of their cost increase. So that may have also been a reason for why this happens.
What about self-regulation? Is that something that could happen?
It will never happen.
Never. Why not?
One of the concerns from businesses is the cost of compliance. And we're not talking just about the actual money you pay to comply, but the kind of education you need to do, the kind of reading you have to follow up on, and all of that to ensure you comply to certain things.
Of course, once it's standardized, consumers have more transparency in the price that they will be paying when they do their hair services. So they have a better picture rather than you have different hikes of price, and consumer will be very confused. But for our industry, it's very hard to standardize it because we have 3 different groups of category of our service providers. That means the A group can be in the shopping mall in Orchard Road area, you know. B group can be in the neighborhood malls and heartlanders. And the C groups are all the singles in the smaller town areas. So if we were to cross the board and give it a standardized, then I think there will be a lot of dispute.
Standardizing, what we can look at is having a better guideline about how cost increase can be communicated and how that can be shared with people.
Can we expect CNY surcharge to increase next year?
I really hope we're not going to continually get increase in supply chain, gas prices and manpower. If those stabilize, I think the surcharges will go back to our pre-COVID levels, which is maybe 15-20% surcharges depending on the industry.
It looks like surcharges are here to stay. But if you don't want to feel the pinch as much, there are a few things you can do, like stocking up early on your festive items or goodies, things that last more than 2 months. And when it comes to grooming services like your manicure or your haircut, you know, you can always consider taking an earlier slot, where it's likely the surcharges won't be priced as high. And if you really don't want to pay a surcharge, just do it yourself. Clean your own home, manicure your own nails, and if you're confident enough, cut your own hair. Ooh, that's a bit tricky.